Charles Leclerc edged out Sergio Perez and Lewis Hamilton for pole in a thrilling Singapore Grand Prix qualifying session as Max Verstappen was less fuming after finishing 8th. The season built to a dramatic finale under the lights on Formula One's return to the Marina Bay Street circuit as times continued to improve on a drying track, with Perez and Hamilton both within just over half a tenth of Leclerc's time of 1:49.412 for Ferrari. On the other hand, though, the big story kind of at the end was Verstappen, whose track position made him the last driver to have the opportunity to set a time on the improving surface, appeared on course for challenging for pole until Red Bull bizarrely ordered him to abort. The Dutchman delivered an expletive-laden rant at his team over team radio, asking what happened, with confirmation coming at the end of the session that continuing left him with an insufficient amount of fuel on board to provide the required 1 litre sample for FIA scrutineering. The mishap means it's unlikely Verstappen will be able to take his first opportunity to win the World Championship in Sunday's race, with the Red Bull driver needing a victory for both Leclerc and Perez to finish well below their starting positions as well as his victory. Carlos Sainz was fourth for Ferrari, with Alpine's Fernando Alonso, McLaren's Lando Norris and AlphaTauri's Pierre Gasly also ahead of Verstappen at the flag. George Russell suffered a hugely disappointing qualifying, especially given Mercedes teammate Hamilton's speed, as he finished 11th after being knocked out in Q2. After heavy rain for much of the day in Singapore, which has seen final practice take place on the wet track, qualifying began with damp patches remaining and all of the cars on intermediates. It was only at the very end of Q2 when some cars unsuccessfully tried out slicks before all the front runners made the switch at the beginning of Q3. For much of the session and the weekend as a whole, Leclerc had appeared to be competing with Verstappen and Hamilton for pole. However, the rapidly improving nature of the track for slick tyres in the final shootout brought several cars into contention, with the likes of Perez, Sainz and Alonso showing strong pace. It ultimately looked though it would come down to the timing of the last lap contenders to compete for a final lap, likely to have the best shot at pole. That appeared as though it wouldn't suit Leclerc, as he took pole in the closing stages before Perez slotted behind. This appears to leave Hamilton, who had topped the timesheet for much of Q3, a brilliant chance to take a pole of the season. He produced the fastest middle sector to enhance his chances, but made a mistake in the final sector to leave himself an agonisingly small margin off the front row and pole position. However, the car with the best chance of pole appeared to be Verstappen after he had been told to abort one attempt of a flying lap and an apparent attempt to enhance his track position. The move appeared to have been successful as he crossed the line later than any rivals and then drove a lap that was looking good and looked like it would be enough to take pole from Charles Leclerc. However, he didn't slow down and was seen to be pulling into pit lane, with scenes of shocking onlookers who wondered what the hell was going on. The rant Verstappen unleashed over team radio suggests he was probably the most mystified of anyone. I felt good on the lap before, but then they told me to abort, so okay, we must do that. And then on the final lap they told me to box, and I realised what was going to happen. Verstappen said afterwards, "We run out of fuel, it's just incredibly frustrating and shouldn't happen. When you're under fuel or you don't plan to see 6 laps, then at least you track it throughout the session that you're not going to make it." We've seen that way earlier. I'm not happy at all at the moment. Of course it's always a team effort, I can make mistakes and the team can make mistakes, but it's never acceptable, he said. The notable absentee with Q3 was the second Mercedes of Russell, who revealed after the session he'd been hampered by a brake issue. Russell delivered a remarkably consistent debut session in Mercedes, finishing all but one race in the top 5 and only missing out on Q3 on 2 occasions. Therefore, it came as a major surprise he was so far off Hamilton's pace. I was struggling with something to do with the brakes and the engine in P1 that was pushing me into the corners. It kind of felt like I didn't have a throttle on as I was going in, and I didn't. The tyres felt good, but I just couldn't get around any corners. It was a shame, as we probably couldn't have done any better in Q3 because we couldn't resolve the problem. Earlier there had also been a few surprise exits in Q1, with Alpine's Esteban Ocon finishing down in 18th after failing to get his brakes working properly on his final lap. He was joined in the bottom 5 by McLaren and Daniel Ricciardo, leaving the team battling for 4th in the Constructors' Championship, relying on Alonso and Norris's points on Sunday. Before I go, let me run you through the final classification from qualifying today, and of course it is Charles Leclerc on pole. Big victory, big pole for Charles Leclerc. Looked like Verstappen might have had it, but he produced a lap just about good enough. And with Verstappen down in 8th, this has to be a real opportunity for him to pick up a win. Perez in second, didn't quite seem to have the pace of Max again, but for me it was a much improved performance from him. He looked much more competitive. Hamilton, no, gutted for him. I really thought pole was on there. He was flying that around, just made a tiny mistake I think on his final lap, but that's going to happen when you push the car car like that. But yeah, great effort from him, you'd have to say. Carlos Sainz in 4th. I think he'll be disappointed. 10.5 off Leclerc, so not a big margin, but to still end in 4th must be disappointing. Alonso in 5th, Norris in 6th. Alonso half a second in front of Norris, once again producing in the mixed conditions. But still great effort from both of them, and Alpine seems to have made a step forward with the upgrade. Gasly in 7th, really solid effort from him, especially in that bit of a poor car, you'd have to say. Magnussen 9th, he seems to be kind of a bit of a Singapore specialist, and Tsunoda in 10th as well, especially on his first go to Singapore, so fair play to all of them. But Verstappen in 8th, hugely frustrating, and for me that's a really poor error from Red Bull, especially when they told him to have bought that before. They must have had no idea that was going to happen. Really poor. But anyway, George Russell in 11th, disappointing from him, just hasn't seemed to have the pace all weekend. I don't know if it is all down to that issue, but hopefully he can make a solid recovery tomorrow. Stroll in 12th, a bit of a weird for them to take the slick gamble, because it seemed like he was well placed to make it into Q3 anyway, but it is what it is. Schumacher in 13th, not bad, but just didn't really have the pace of Magnussen so far. Vettel in 14th, I think he'll be disappointed with that. We know how good he can be around Singapore, but he seems to have been a bit off Stroll recently, or this weekend. And Shogun Newman 15th, good effort to make it out to Q2, but except for that, nothing much. I guess he was another one who took the slick gamble. Bottas 16th, Ricciardo 17th, and Ocon 18th, all going out in Q1. Nobody disappointed with that. Ocon especially, Bottas seemed to have decent pace as well, and Ricciardo just another not great outing from him. Albon and Latifi seems to be quite a way off, but Albon's 6/10 ahead of Latifi, considering everything he's been through. We know Latifi isn't very good at all, but it's still a very solid effort from Albon there, in my opinion. Anyway guys, that's it for today. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, don't forget to comment down below, follow us for daily F1 news, and subscribe to our channel, we greatly appreciate it. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.